And in the cities, the neighborhoods would have their own time zones. Historians estimate about 9,000 time zones in the United States. Now, if you're trying to run a transcontinental railroad, 9,000 time zones would be a nightmare, wouldn't it? So the railroads came up with this scheme of 4 for the entire U.S., but they had a problem. Convince the government to make it official. And in the U.S., if you want to convince the government, what do you have to do first? Convince the politicians. And what's the best way to convince a politician of something? You're right, the railroad spent several years and a whole lot of campaign contributions. They finally succeeded, and today we Americans can proudly say that we have the best time zones that money can buy. See that big axle next to the wall? That's standard gauge. Now what's gauge? The distance between the wheels or the rails, it's the same, and most of us would expect to be something simple, easy to work with, 4 foot or 5 foot exactly. You know what it actually is? 4 foot 8.5 inches. If you asked them 150 years ago why they were building a railroad that size, they would explain to you that railroads evolved from horses and wagons. That's the size of the wagon wheels. If you ask them why are the wagon wheels that size? We don't know. These wagons came from New York. You go to New York and ask them, we don't know. These wagons came from London. You go to London and ask them, they would explain to you that the roads and bridges there were built by the Romans 2,000 years ago. What for? Roman chariots. Have you heard that saying, old habits die hard? It's true on the railroads. When you ride down track today, same size as Roman chariot from 2,000 years ago. Now, you know, some people, they like to keep asking why, especially the young ones. The other day, a young lady wanted to know why the Roman chariots were that size. Well, I'll tell you what I told her. It's got something to do with the rear ends of 2 horses, and I better not say any more about it. Let's continue right over this. All aboard. A few minutes ago, I was talking about brakes, and here's an example of an old-fashioned handbrake. They're still around. They're used as emergency brakes. There's one at each end of the cars. Is there anyone here today from Arizona? My grandfather was a blacksmith from Arizona. He was also a politician, and he used to campaign on a soapbox just like this one. One day my grandma asked him, why you always campaigning on a soapbox? Can you guess how he answered that one? He told her, you don't expect me to campaign on a liquor box, do you? It's got to be clean and honest, like a soapbox. 3 kinds of steam locomotives. The earliest ones burned wood, as you can see right here. Next, the wealthiest people in the world today, how do they like to get around? Not only jets, but private jets. 150 years ago, it was private railroad cars. We got a real good example right here to start green number 100. This is a mansion on wheels. Only the wealthiest people could afford this. Private bedrooms, private bathrooms. In the middle, the dining room has got crystal and fine tableware, silver, fresh colors. Down at the other end, the living room actually has a fireplace in it. Have you ever heard of a railroad car with a fireplace in it? Now you notice there's iron down below and iron up above. What do you see on the side? Wooden slats. You think that's a good idea, a fireplace in a wooden car? It would not be allowed today, but 150 years ago things were different. Now this car is special to us for another reason. Before we built this magnificent museum, all we had were little wooden sheds out there by the river. We needed something bigger and better, so we came up with what we thought was a clever idea. See if you'd agree. This car was parked out there, and one day we invited the governor of California to come have dinner on the car. We wined him and dined him, got him in a real good mood, and then when the time was right, we slipped him the papers to sign to establish this museum. I'd say it worked out pretty good. You may have heard of this governor. He went on to become president of the United States, and when he was young, he was in the movies. If you don't know who it is, there is a picture over there on the other side. Okay, we're almost finished. Watch your step now.
I'll be back, folks. No, he's not president.
Anybody like surveys? If you like surveys, today's your lucky day. We got some survey forms, a little survey box right here. Feel free to take advantage of that if you'd like to. Next, we're going to talk about California gold, but if you think we mean the shiny stuff coming out of the ground, there's something a whole lot more valuable than that. Anybody know what it is? Follow me right up here. Y'all know what this is? Rotary snowplow. This is a top of the line snowplow. Now every engine like that there, for example, there's a small snowplow in the front. It's good for if the snow's maybe a foot or two deep. But if the snow gets really deep, then it's necessary to use this piece of equipment. Railroad management's reluctant to do so. Expensive to operate, expensive to maintain, expensive to repair. But it takes care of a whole lot of snow, spins it around, shoots it straight up, and then, if you're the operator, you've got a choice. You can shoot everything to the right, or shoot everything to the left. How do you decide? Well, let me give you a couple of examples. Let's say you're on the side of the cliff, and it goes up to the right and down to the left. Which way you can throw all that snow? Down to the left. Okay, let me give you one more example. You're on the flat and level. You're going to go to the right or the left. But up ahead, you notice the boss is on the right-hand side. You probably wouldn't want to come to your boss with the boss. Okay, follow me right over here. What do you see on the side of the box again? Fruit Growers Express, California fresh fruits and vegetables, worth a whole lot more than that shiny stuff ever was. Shipped to all over the United States, and in warm weather it was necessary to keep cool. Nowadays it's electrical refrigeration. In the old days it was ice. So there's a gentleman on the bottom loading ice into that. Now I promised you a Santa Fe food, and I'm proud to say that aluminum diner over there in Santa Fe, it's one of the finest diners ever built. The whole train was first class. You can take a look inside. It's got a unique exhibit in there, the fine tableware for most major American railroads on display. Right behind it, there's another car back there. You can't see it, but trust me, it's there. And since I'm not a politician, you can call it president. There's a sleeper car back there. It shows you 4 ways to travel in the old days if your trip is overnight. So most economically, you're just going to sleep in your seat, maybe a pillow or blanket. But if you want to pay extra and upgrade, they will gladly transform those seats into upper and lower versions for privacy. There's also 2 kinds of bedrooms on the car. Now my preference would be the private bedroom.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The 12 o'clock counts in the sale, evidence of a